Places. Places. Did you hear that?
Heck yeah!
You are listening to Calling Out Controversy, the new political and economic talk show that's taking over the information station where you'll never know what you'll hear next. It's 88.3 FM, WVCR The Saint. Now let's focus up, because here's Nicole Commisso and Andrew Hecht with this week's topic.
Hey, you guys, this is Nicole Commisso, and you are listening to Calling Out Controversy on WVCR 88.3 FM The Saint, and this is Andrew Hecht as well.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, and we are going to be talking about free speech today and if hate speech is free speech.
Yes. So I think we have differing opinions on this because
we absolutely do.
I'm aware. So to me, hate speech is not free speech. The reason why I don't believe that hate speech is free speech is because I believe it's abusive language and it's intentionally used to threaten the target of said speech. With that being said, your right to live and act how you please is usually only guaranteed until you infringe on the rights of other people. And when I think of hate speech specifically, I think it's abusive and threatening. Intrinsic value kind of infringes on the rights of the person that is being targeted by the speaker of hate speech. So I don't think it is covered by the freedom of speech clause in the First Amendment.
I think that, I disagree with you. I think that hate speech is most definitely protected, and that's because hate speech, especially now, can be so generalized. So we're taking the term hate speech, and there is no real definition for hate speech as of right now. And so because it's so general, once we start this, it's hard to close it. So we can say somebody can interpret hate speech as, I really don't like the sweatshirt you're wearing. And then that could be technically considered hate speech. And I think this is a really dangerous thing that we do when it comes to free speech and the right to say what you want, because anybody could be offended by anything. So once you take hate speech and make it not protected by free speech, I think that it really, it's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's easy to shut people down when you say hate speech isn't protected because anybody could think anything is hate speech.
Well, that's the problem, is that from what I understand of it, it's abusive and threatening language. Now, feeling threatened by something and something being threatening are two different things. So, like, I can feel threatened of bunny rabbits. That doesn't make a bunny rabbit threatening. In context, somebody can try to threaten me, and I cannot feel threatened because I'm secure about whatever it is they're trying to threaten me with, and that doesn't make it any less threatening. So with hate speech, like if you're walking in a public place and you happen to be sensitive to an Italian slur, someone is in that public place, notices that I'm Jewish or that you're Italian, and starts going, "Oh, choice expletive. Oh, choice expletive,"
right.
And starts screaming that at us. That happens once. Yeah, okay. Neither one of us are going to go home crying, and we might be affected, but it's not going to be a mental issue. But if it recurringly happens every day, if you go back to the 60s when kids were trying to go to school for the first time in integrated schools, and there were people boycotting, screaming the N-word and stuff like that every day, that's hate speech, and it infringes on their right to live a quality life.
I would say that that hate speech is free speech, and I think that hate speech should be allowed, and this is why. Because exactly for that example that you just gave, I'm an Italian American. Say I went into a restaurant, somebody had a problem with me because I'm Italian and they're doing an Italian slur, whatever, what have you. If I was offended or not offended by it, I would want to know who in that room has an issue with me so that I could either stay away from them or say, what's your problem? That's how I feel. And, there's the founder of this organization called FIRE, and they protect colleges from free speech and people trying to shut down what's quote unquote hate speech now. And he's Jewish, and he says he protects hate speech because he always wants to know who the Nazi in the room is. And if hate speech was not protected by the First Amendment, then he would never know who could possibly be endangering his life or hate him for that matter. and he always wants to know who the Nazi in the room is so that he can either, try and face this person or completely stay away from them.
Sure, and that's a valid point. Obviously I sympathize with that. However, I don't think that means that it should be constitutionally protected. I think there should still be consequences. There are certain things that you can't say that the Supreme Court has ruled on terms of free speech, like yelling fire in a crowded movie theater, or
that's not hate speech, though.
That's not hate speech. What I'm saying is
like
it's stare decisis. It's precedent for saying you can limit speech in public places. And as far as knowing who the Nazi is in the room, I do believe that they are not that easily hidden. I can pretty much you gauge a feeling.
Yes,
it's like if someone's a racist, they kind of let off indicators other than saying something.
Right, but right now, hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. In 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that hate speech is in fact free speech. So if, like, in your opinion, if you're saying that hate speech shouldn't be protected, so say the Supreme Court overturned that and they made it so hate speech was not protected by the First Amendment. That means that the people you say are so obviously racist and the people that you say are so obviously quote unquote Nazis really wouldn't be anymore. Even if you say that you think that you would know, they would legally, constitutionally then not be allowed to express their opinions, hate speech or not hate speech.
Yeah, but that's not going to stop them. It's if you think about it this way, and especially when it comes to things like hate speech.
I'm saying we shouldn't stop them. We should not stop these hateful people from saying what they want to say so that we could fully, transparently see who they really are. I mean, no matter, Voltaire said, if I might hate what you have to say, but I will fight for your right to say it. Fight to the death your right to say it. I fully, truly believe in that.
Right. So there, maybe not in this country specifically, but there's other cases in other countries that have had hate speech laws put in. Germany, for one. Israel is another. Canada is one. And Canada got really controversial because they got farther and they wanted to confine speech. They wanted forced speech, which is different than saying you can't say certain words.
See, but that's the problem. So you just completely prove what I'm trying to say. So the people and the countries that are implementing hate speech laws are going to take advantage of it and keep going further.
Well, not necessarily because Canada got that law dropped. That forced speech law got dropped.
Right, but it happened.
It attempted to happen, just like there's attempts to do everything. I mean, there's an attempt right now to redefine what the word person is in New York through the Reproductive Health Act. They dictionarily redefined the word person.
And it happened.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean we can't sue over it.
Right, I'm not saying you can't change it. I'm not saying that you can't sue over it, but it can happen. And there are people, just because a law happens, yes, you can go back and change it, but it's still going to affect people. So what I'm saying is once you start censoring people, there's a chilling effect. We talked about this today in class, actually. Constitutional law, ladies and gentlemen.
Civlib.
So there's a chilling effect that happens. So even though you're saying, it won't stop these people, maybe not right now, but maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when this law is still enacted, a hate speech law, hypothetically, these people are going to see that there are consequences to what they say. So all I'm trying to say is if there are bad people out there, how else are we going to weed out these horrible people in society if we limit their right to free speech and we limit their, ability to be that jerk?
Because you don't have to use public displays of hateful rhetoric to find the person who's a bad person. They kind of congregate together. Like you said, for example,
won't it make it so much easier?
Well, hold on. Because here's
forget easier. I mean, we're back and forth here, but I don't think it matters. I think that hate speech is free speech, and I'm a First Amendment supporter, 110%, and you should, be able to say whatever you want, obviously besides defamation and the limitations that there are to the First Amendment. But
no, it's just when it comes to, like you said, knowing who the Nazi is in the room, there's different societal factors you can take into account. That means I don't have to go and hear that nonsense when I'm in public. Like listen, it's not.
Do you
just,
think that Nazis have free speech?
Do I think Nazis have free speech? Do you think
Nazis, white supremacists, anybody in this nation that you may disagree with or you think is a terrible person has free speech to do what they want?
Yeah, because rights apply to everyone until they infringe on someone else's rights. But that's why I'm saying that hate speech in itself is not protected
okay.
under the free speech clause.
But think about this. You're saying until it infringes on the rights of somebody else. Isn't that so broad?
No.
How is it not broad? I could say that you're infringing on my rights by offending me.
But you can't.
So then where is that line? Where is that invisible line of where somebody's rights are being infringed upon?
When hate speech is being defined you can Google it. This is the definition that Google comes up with when you define it. It's abusive and threatening language.
That could be anything.
No, it can't.
Think about it. You could threatening and abusive language that could be taken. That is so general and broad. That could be me coming up to you and saying, "I really don't like your T-shirt," in a really angry tone. Isn't that abusive and threatening?
No. Come on now. Wait a minute.
What I'm trying to say is that's what people will take it as. They're going to look at our society right now and the people that are sensitive and whiny babies.
Right,
and all
but
the
you're
warriors.
assuming that judges and prosecutors and lawsuits that'll come up. The law that'll come up in court would be: is it threatening and abusive language? Or they might make their own definition for it. But just go off the idea: is it abusive and threatening language? Oh, I don't like your T-shirt. Okay, did you mean that in a threatening manner? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. But was it abusive? No, because the context of that sentence is
But you can go and say that it was abusive. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm taking it as I've been on this college campus. I've been in college for almost 4 years now. I'm almost going to graduate.
Yeah.
And I have been told that by me disagreeing with professors, by me disagreeing with white privilege, by me being a conservative, that I'm hateful, that I'm, producing hate speech with my opinions. And that's the problem.
Right, but that's not the legal and binding governing body telling you that. Like unless Siena College came up to you and said that being a conservative on campus is hate speech, then what you're saying is that your fellow peers and professors
and faculty and administrators,
I said and professors and
right.
faculty and whatnot are the ones that are suggesting that you're doing hate speech. But unless the school actually took action against you to say like, oh, we are condemning what you're saying is hate speech by our definition, then the legal governing body knows to let you go about it. Just kind of like we're on WVCR 88.3 The Saint right now.
Right.
In under 2 episodes, we've probably angered several people on this campus.
Absolutely.
And that's our right to do so.
Exactly. And I'm saying that should be your right to do so, whether or not it's hate speech.
But we're not infringing on their right. And that means that we don't have to worry about us being called hate speech. Now, we're going to take a quick break and cut to a sponsorship by our generous station, and we will get back to this topic in just a minute. Let us know what you think. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Calling Out Controversy. We'll be right back. All right, hey everyone, we're back, and I hope you enjoyed that lovely sponsorship. All right, so where were we?
So talking about hate speech, and is hate speech free speech?
As I stated previously, it infringes on somebody's right to live a quality life by its own definition. You mentioned that the Supreme Court had made a ruling on it saying that it's protected.
Yeah, back in June 2017, before Neil Gorsuch was appointed.
Yeah, so now we have...
It was unanimously affirmed by...
It was unanimously?
Yeah.
So they obviously agree with you then.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing judges change, right? And at least on my side. But
I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that most of the country believes that hate speech is free speech. I mean, and honestly, I think it's really because hate speech is so generalized that it could really be anything. And that's really, really dangerous to me, honestly. And I feel like the only way to go about controversial issues, I mean, your favorite person, Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, he says all the time that hate speech and free speech, they really can be the same thing, because no matter what you say you're in a room of 100 people, no matter what you say, especially if it's going to be something important, you are bound to offend at least one person, probably even more.
Which is what we're doing right now.
I mean, if it's something important. But think about it. Somebody could take anything you say and say that it's hate speech.
Yeah, and I kind of see that. You're not swaying me, but
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're kind of swaying me a little bit. Listen, I understand. I sympathize with the idea that you want to know who's your attacker.
Because and they
pretty
say
audibly.
Hate speech and offensive speech are simultaneously used today. So we're already in murky waters when it comes to what is it, where is it, how do we,
So let me hit you with a counter Jordan Peterson thing, which this is the third time now we're mentioning Jordan Peterson. You guys might want to look him up.
Look up his view on hate speech.
But the Jordan Peterson quote that I think is interesting is that he had a problem with compelled speech, with forced speech. At the same time, he also had an issue with just saying anything that comes to your mind, because he said, at least in Canada, where he's from and where he teaches at Toronto University, he says, they already have laws against saying certain words, and that wasn't what his problem was. Now, he also is a very big proponent of definitions and words, which is what got him in trouble in the first place and launched his career as being a public speaker.
Right.
And the definitions of words matter, and offending someone and being hateful and threatening towards someone are two different things. We're bound to offend people because not everyone's going to agree with either of us. Most people will agree with you. Some people agree with me. Last week, some people would agree with me. Some people would agree with you. And
that's with anything.
And so, yeah, that's with anything. So
that's with any conversation. That's with any controversial topic. That's with any issue. That's with politics.
Exactly. And so my problem with that is that if we don't follow words, if we don't look at definitions of words, then we're bound to get into this problem where it's like, oh, you're offending me, so you must hate me. So obviously we have a problem, because that destroys civil discourse. I mean, look at us. We're not going to...
I think taking out hate speech completely is detrimentally destroying civil discourse.
Oh, no. See, I can't agree with you on that.
I think it destroys every part of talking about anything, because you cannot weed out bad people if we do not allow hate speech. You can't. You just can't.
So here's the thing. If someone's really that hateful that they don't care about your feelings to the point they're willing to use threatening and abusive language, if you happen to be black, they're going to call you the N-word. If you're Jewish, they're going to call you the choice expletive. If you're Italian, they're going to call you choice expletive. So, if you have that problem and that person's consistently doing that, there should be a penalty. There should be a social penalty, other than becoming a pariah.
And the social penalty will be no one will want to be your friend. No one will want to hire you if you are that much of a jerk that you have no problem saying the words that you're saying. That's the whole entire point.
Yeah, but that's not what happens. The people who...
That's not true.
No,
That's not true.
The people who are in the Klan...
I know plenty of, terrible people that I have completely let out of my life because I don't like what they have to say.
Okay, but David Duke still has a social platform, and David Duke still gets paid a lot of money.
Just because somebody has all right, so if you don't like what somebody says, do you think that they should be thrown in jail?
I don't think they should be thrown in jail, but they should be fined.
I disagree with you
completely. Do you think that Alex Jones or David Duke should have such a large platform that they can get away with what they're saying?
Absolutely. I think Alex Jones should be able to say whatever he wants. I think anybody should say whatever they want.
Alex Jones openly offended an entire state by insinuating a school shooting was a hoax.
So what?
That doesn't contribute to civil discourse. That's just being a bigot.
I disagree with you completely. Who are we to say who can contribute to civil discourse and who can't?
Who are we to say?
Yeah.
It's not we specifically are people to say, but the listener who's listening right now,
Do you like
to people who...
Do you like the free market?
Of course I like the free market.
Marketplace of ideas. The free marketplace of ideas.
Right. We still ban certain products from marketplaces. Let's just remember that. We don't allow lead paint in toys. We banned the toys with the lead paint in it.
Because people started getting sick.
Yeah. Alex Jones has the verbal equivalent of lead fill paint.
And that's your opinion. And guess what? You get to not listen to it.
Yeah, and I don't listen to it, and people finally decide to throw him off Twitter. But when you're saying...
See, and I disagree with that.
When
I
you're
disagree
saying
with what
inflammatory
Twitter did.
things...
I disagree with what Twitter did.
Well, they're a private business.
They're a private company, and I respect that they're a private company, and I respect that they could kick off whoever they want because they are a private organization. However, I, as someone that uses Twitter, do not like what they did. And as a consumer, I'm allowed to say, you know what, maybe I'm going to hop off Twitter because maybe they're going to ban me someday because they don't like what I have to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, Twitter allows Ann Coulter, they allow Tommy Loren, they allow Ben Shapiro.
Why shouldn't they?
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't, but what I'm saying is they allow plenty of people.
Why shouldn't
they allow Milo Yiannopoulos, if that's his correct name. I really don't care. He's a bigot too. But
and that's your opinion.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, everything I'm saying is of my opinion. If you watch me on YouTube, you can see the face of the opinion that's coming out right now. If you take people like that and you allow them a platform, I'm not saying that's bad. What I'm saying is people that are saying things just to anger other people, and it's not for comedic use, if they're doing it just to be a bigot. Like David Duke, Alex Jones has his opinions because I don't know what happened to him as a kid. But you know what? Those people need to exit the marketplace in the same way that we don't allow certain things in the marketplace in our society anymore.
The only way to make the people that you don't like to exit the marketplace is to say, you know what? Wow, I really don't like what they say, in my opinion. So I'm going to not only stop listening to them, but I'm going to go tell my friends what I think about them, and maybe they'll stop listening to them. And then maybe they'll tell somebody that they don't like what they have to say.
Correct.
That's the whole point. This is the problem. On this college campus at Siena College, I am the only conservative writer on the newspaper,
And
right?
you have a right to be so, and I'm not judging you. And
Well,
I'm
let me
also not
finish.
comparing
Let
you
me
to
finish.
Alex Jones.
No. Well, let me finish. And you know what? I honestly think, I was and am the Alex Jones of this campus. And I'm not saying that I have the same ideals as Alex Jones, just as a filter. But what I'm saying is, compared to a lot and the majority of the people on this campus, I have pretty crazy ideas in their minds.
Not his
So,
crazy. It's so different. Listen, Nicole, you're a conservative. You're a conservative, and that's great to be a conservative on this campus.
All right, stop cutting me off. Let me finish.
All right.
So they said that I use my hate speech to say the things that I had to say. They told me that I did not have the right to voice my opinion on things like white privilege, on things like hate speech, on things, up to the president of this college sending out emails that I didn't think was okay to tell us how to think. Many claim that I did not have the right to do this. But thanks to the First Amendment, I absolutely do. Because under their impression, that's hate speech to them, was what I said. You calling all those people bigots, isn't that hate speech?
Oh, I wouldn't consider it polite speech.
I mean, you're saying that hate speech is against abusive and threatening language, but meanwhile, you're calling someone a bigot over and over again. Isn't that hate speech? And under your definition, you wouldn't be allowed to say that?
I think it's a little bit different because
How is that different?
Because I'm not being threatening.
But you're still name calling. And I mean, bigot is, that's not a nice word.
Right, but when it comes to specifically who I referenced, which is an ex-Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan and a man who has been thrown off Twitter and YouTube for saying quite horrible, in my personal opinion, things.
Right, in your personal opinion. So you're proving my point that hate speech depends on how you feel about what somebody else says. Because like you said, even though he's a leader of the Ku Klux Klan, what have you, and Alex Jones might say terrible things in your opinion, they do have followings, not to say that they're right, but what I'm saying is there are people that do respect what Alex Jones has to say. I respect his opinion to say what he wants to say, and, you don't like what he has to say, therefore it's hate speech to you and you don't want him to say it.
Well, no, because again, it's not a matter of opinion to me. To me, there's a clear and definite line between what is an opinionated statement or a heated statement that can be considered slightly offensive or moderately offensive. And then there's hate speech, which is like all the way to the extreme, where you have speech that is abusive and threatening. Now, calling someone a bigot, while it might not be polite and it might not be the most gentlemanly thing I could be doing right now, it's also not considered threatening. It's also not abusive.
To you.
No, to anybody.
No, that's not true. Everyone has a different opinion on what hate speech is. And that's the whole entire umbrella of this argument, is that everybody could take hate speech and turn it into what it is. And then, before we were talking about lawmakers and prosecutors and judges. And this is my fear of what hate speech laws would do, is that it would be a big 1984. It would be a big George Orwell. And what are we going to have? The hate speech police? And then we're going to see who's going to get fined and who's not. And honestly, in my opinion, if there were hate speech police, you would get fined for calling someone a bigot.
Well, see, here's okay. So that's your like post-apocalyptic view on the hate speech law.
It's quite real, actually, because 1984, that's what it was. And like I said before, the chilling effect of limiting the First Amendment, limiting free speech. Once you start doing that, people are going to automatically be afraid to say the things that they actually really feel, because they're going to fear the government.
Hold on for a second, because 1984 is a fiction novel. Let's start there. On top of that, it is one of those prophesizing novels where they say, oh, if we start to do this, then this will happen, and this will happen. But there was also other things in 1984 that we're not contributing to, like a world government that has lied to its people and divided itself into 3 different sections so it can engage in eternal war with itself in order to keep people afraid. It has censorship of papers and other forms of media, including videos. It replaces people's identities. I'm just asking for a compromise. Jordan Peterson, since we've mentioned him for the entire time of this episode, has actually done something where he's like, the right is really easy to identify when you go too far. And he's like, in his various lectures, he goes, okay, so you take that person, you put him in a box. You go, that person's very bigoted and ignorant and inappropriate. So that person gets put into the box. He doesn't get to talk anymore. And then he talks about how it's hard to do that with the left because there is no end to the left's madness because no one's put a box around it yet. But he's still arguing for telling people, hey, you're in the box now. You don't get to talk. You don't get to talk because you said things that are just not contributive.
Dr. Jordan Peterson also says that there should be a right to offend. He believes in the right to offend people.
I don't,
and so,
I don't argue against the right to offend.
Yes, 1984 is a fiction novel. However, you don't think that there have been Orwellian effects in society? Look at our privacy rights. Look at our technology. You don't think that that's something that could possibly happen or is happening? I think that it is.
I think that
I don't think
still
the
a very
government
far
should be involved.
away place.
I do not think the government should be telling people what they can and cannot say. I just don't think that that's a good idea.
No, and that's fair, and we're going to have to agree to disagree, but we are all out of time for this week.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Calling Out Controversy.
And if you want to write into us, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, check out the WVCR website. As always, this is 88.